I'd got shot down a few weeks before that. Yeah. I got shot from out the sky. 80 bullet holes through the plane, killed a fellow on the ground, shot the leg nearly off the man in the plane.
Where was this?
In that little place of Peachylingui.
And they were shooting at you from the ground. Yeah.
All right. A little 900-foot strip there at Peachylingui, a poor village with starving donkeys. And that's where I'd give them $17,000 for loading, and I'd go over on the highway and load. Well, on day 13, I did a load every day for 13 days. They had a bunch of marijuana pretty good piled up, and I was going load a day. And on day 13, I had that little warning sign going off in my stomach. Uh-oh, don't do it. But I asked this Joaquin, we had the federales paid off, know where we were. So I spent the night in a hammock and walked down to the airplane just as it getting daylight, and 10 or 12 men walked with me, and Pedro got in. I brushed my teeth in the little stream. It was about a foot deep, a little river coming through there. And got in the airplane, and I fired her up, bam, blah, blah, and bam, I thought a tire blew out. I looked over and see if it was, and it still ain't dawned on me, and Pedro's yelling, "Policia, policia, Roger, policia!" Well, it dawned on me, and I shoved the throttle to the firewall, and I only had.
So that was a bullet.
Yeah, somebody they was off to the sides. They'd shot just a warning, like get out, stop. We're gonna rob you, whatever it is. That's what they do. Mm-hmm. They'd taken the plane and put me in prison, the whole thing. So, but even though I had papers, so I just shoved it to the firewall, and there wasn't enough room to take off on that strip, and there's half of it was behind me. Or some of it was behind me. And so just at the end, I'm just like, I think that thing stalls at about 50 miles an hour, just turning 50, and I just pulled it right up and put the flaps on. And as I pulled off the ground, they opened up on both sides of me with machine guns, and they riddled that airplane. I mean, the windshield came out. I got hit 3 times.
Like your body?
Yeah. And
where did you
but I
get
didn't
hit?
know I was hit. I mean, it was just the gasoline.
Adrenaline.
The gasoline just pouring in. The world turned yellow. I must have went into shock. So it just stopped in slow motion. And one bullet hit the strut right by my head, and it just, parts of that bullet just went all over me. I just looked like I'd been peppered with lead. And the gasoline was just pouring in. I mean, just pouring in where they'd shot the wing up above, and the windshield's gone. I didn't, blah, 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 it was just like a hailstorm. Mm-hmm. So I was.
Airplanes stall or no?
I was in a stall anyway, and I didn't realize it, and I guess you wouldn't unless you trained for it. But when you're in a stall, the elevator is kind of flappy, and I didn't realize it at the time. I thought they had shot the elevator cable in too. So I thought, oh God. So I just reached over and switched it off, pulled the mixture, pulled everything, and in the river, there was rocks about as big as this table, and they were like the turtle back all the way up until there was a waterfall. It was quite a pretty place. And I crashed straight onto it. I thought, if I hit those rocks. And when I did, the first time I hit, the wings came off, and then it bounced. And the next time, the nose came out and came under the plane. And I'm sitting there. I must have been knocked unconscious because Pedro's shaking me. Come on, Roger. Come on, Roger. So I stepped out into the water, and here comes these 4 federales still shooting at us. And a bullet or 2 hit the airplane. And I kept a 9mm Browning high power taped to the top of the radio in case I ever needed it. So, because you didn't want it in the airplane. So it was just handy, just laying there. So I took and popped a few caps out of them, and they ran into the rocks. So we took off running, and then I looked, and Pedro's foot nearly shot off. They'd shot him on one side of the ankle, and it just blown out the other side. And it wasn't even hardly bleeding, the shock of it. So I took my T-shirt off and stripped it and tied it best I could.
But you had still bullets in you, so like you could still run.
I shot the top of my toenail off. Yeah. I shot a chop across my head and my kneecap. Okay. So I was just nicked.
Okay, gotcha.
It was very painful later on, but right that time I didn't. It was just hot. And there's a bullet still in my foot from it, a piece of a bullet, good sized slug. So we went on up the mountain through the cactus and
just running.
Just going, I want to go down. No, they are federales are going the easy way. Let's go. This young fella, and we came to an old donkey. She must have been 30 years old, long and way back, long hair on her. Charlotte. And he petted the donkey, and we jumped on. And we rode for
like an actual donkey?
A donkey. There were donkeys all over the place. Anyhow, he knew that one from the village. And so we rode 7 miles, 2 of us on a donkey with no bridle, no saddle, nothing. And we came to a little man plowing a little horse and a little ox. Both of them spotted, and the yoke was across their back this way, and he's plowing with a little plow amongst stumps. It was like one of these people clearing a little piece of land, and he had a little house there. And so we went into his house, and his wife and his daughter, they put like cloth over my wounds, and on Pedro's it was terrible. And they poured diesel oil on it to keep the flies off. So I'm covered in diesel. So the man left, and he was gone all day. And then about dark, he showed up, and about 15 or 20 horses and mules showed up in the yard, walking fast. And a doctor got out. He said, "I'm Dr. Benjamin So-So with the Red Cross." And he worked on my foot, and he worked on Pedro. He gave us a shot of morphine and tetanus shots. And he said, "You got to get to hospital." He said, "Pedro will die if he don't get to hospital." He said, "They're looking for an American pilot that's been shot down, and they think he's dead. There was a lot of blood in that airplane." And so they rode, I don't know how far we rode, but we rode miles, and we'd come to a road, and there was a big truck, and it was loaded with corn in the ear. And they dug holes in that corn, put us in it, and covered us up. And the road was rough, and every time we'd hit a dirt road, that corn would cover me up, and they'd scratch my face out again. And when it came to the highway, we went into a house, and they got me some clothes, and mine was messed up. And a white basin, and they must have brought 20 jugs of water different times. I kept washing my foot till all the blood and the crud got off of me, and put on those clothes. And somebody went to, they said, "You can't go north, the road's blocked. They're looking for the pilot. So you got to go south." So they found a taxi in Mazatlan, and it was a rather new taxi, and the fellow would take me to Guadalajara, which was, 7, 8 hours south. So we got in that taxi, and they propped me up with sheets and blankets and pillows in the back seat, and gave me these great big white pain pills, and I was quite content. And then I was shot down in Colombia also.
What can you tell that story?
I sure can. All right, I went down for a load of marijuana, and we got to the place, and we got there too early, and the guerrillas screamed, "You got to get out of here! Got to get out of here!" And so we went back to the place where we staged from, and refueled. I had a beautiful DC-3, carry 3 tons, and so while I was waiting, I ate something for lunch, and I went around behind the house. We refueled the plane up. I had to wait till late in the afternoon. They wanted me to come just at dark, so the military planes couldn't see me on their strip. So I'm laying in the hammock asleep, and I hear this terrible roar. And I looked right up through the trees, and the ass end of 2 military jets going straight up. And they do a dive over, and they came back down the strip in front of that airplane, and they just tear it up with 50 caliber machine guns. They just showing out.
Yeah.
So I run for the airplane. I just give that guy $80,000, and he ran for the truck, and all the rest of them ran for the truck. I should have ran with my money, but I didn't. I ran for the airplane.
Yeah.
And the co-pilot got in. His name was Al. He got in with me, and 2 fellows got in the back. We had drums of fuel in there to refuel when we got down to the guerrillas. So we took off, and I couldn't get the gear up because I'd taken off in such a hurry. There's pins in the struts of a DC-3 and with big flags on them, and you have to take them up so that the plane won't come up. So these jets swarmed on me, and they tried to get me to go. They kept telling me which way to go, and the pilot would be just as close as just right over there. I could see him. I just held up the old hippie piece. I didn't think they would shoot. I really didn't. Nobody had shot before. So I kept flying out, and I kept getting slower and slower, and they kept slowing down, and the black smoke rolling. And then they started shooting up under me, boom, 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 with them 20-millimeter cannons, and the tracers just going up. They looked like they're curving up from me, and whoa, and I pushed the nose over so they couldn't get under me. And later on, I heard they thought I tried to ram them. So one of them went for fuel, and I kept on going, and the one just tore the left wing tip up with the 50 caliber, and then he come back again and shot the tail up. He's warning me. And I tell the fella in there, I says, if you bring me enough water, I believe I can fly this thing. My mouth got quite dry. So I went on, and I landed on a big pasture. and it was huge pasture, and it was rougher than it looked, and the wings just flapped, and I come to a stop and jumped out and pulled those tabs out and threw them on the ground so I could get my gear up. And I understand that during the 1980 World Series baseball game that it says American DC-3 has just been shot down by Colombian jets. You know, it's the first plane shot down on Reagan's new war on drugs. But he's up and away, ladies and gentlemen. We'll keep you posted. So I took off again, and I went into a thunderstorm, and they came close to the mountains. So I spiraled up, and every time I'd come out, that jet was there, boom, boom, boom. And I dove back into that storm, it boom, boom, boom in there. And at 20,000 feet, I started icing up. So I went out one last time, and he was right there waiting. He had me on radar. So I went back in, and I kicked it over and put it into a spin and went straight down to 2,000 feet and come out under it. And I was flying along the Guaviare River. And it was 20 feet above the water. It looked like a pasture. It was just grass. And I made several runs to tear the grass down, and it felt hard. That old DC-3 weighs 30,000 pounds, and I put it down on the fifth run. I said, "All right, Al, we're going to land now." And as
you flew like close several times?
I put the wheels down.
Oh, you put the wheels down without landing.
Miles, and just so I'm making me a runway, you know.
So you're being tracked by a jet.
He's gone.
Trying to before that, I'm just like retelling the story how insane it is. So he's trying to shoot you down, and there's a thunderstorm that you're escaping into, and then you do a spin down to 2,000 feet, whatever you said, like somehow escaping all of this, and then you try to land on a pasture on a giant heavy plane that carries 3 tons. By touching down 5 or 6 times to make a landing strip for yourself.
Yeah, the grass is 3 or 4 feet high. Okay. So it looked really good after a few times. So then just before it stopped, I said, "Al, take your feet off the brakes." He said, "I don't have my feet on the brakes." Well, I knew I had broken through the crust. Nice. And I put full power on, but it didn't. That old big plane just come on down, and it just did as it came to a stop, it did a headstand. 90 degrees to the ground.
Oh, wow.
And the engines held it up, and the nose and all just crushed in right on us. We fell between the 2 seats to keep from getting killed.
Wow.
And when it come to a stop, all that fuel was pouring out on those hot engines, and there's a escape hatch at the top. I just stepped out, took my suitcase with me.
Was there fire?
No fire. The plane left the plane there, and the 2 guys that was in the back, one of them broke his thumb, and it was with the barrels, and they had to put tie gas hoses together to shimmy down to get out.
Yeah.
So
that's an incredible story.
Well, let me just tell you, it had a little bit more to it. I learned to fly with the idea of being a missionary aviation fellowship pilot. Yeah. Fly the missionaries in and out of the jungle.
Yes.
Well, I went 11 days through that jungle. The rest of them went on down the road and went to prison. I said, I'll crawl on my belly 6 months in here, a year, eating snakes before I'm going down the road. So I went in there, and I was 11 days in the jungle. And I finally came to a place, and it had airplanes. I kept asking the Indian, "Donde está avions?" I wanted to steal an airplane and get out of there. And when I came to the place, I asked, "What is this place? Lovely place. It looked like Honolulu in World War II. Was a runway there." She said, "You don't know. This is Loma Linda, headquarters for Missionary Aviation Fellowship for the Amazon." And they flew me out.
Wow.